Before I forget, Nietzsche told me I had only 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Good, you first.
Set a countdown timer for 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes. Starting.
Okay, hi. I'm going to be talking very quickly about Google Assistant at I/O 2017. Part of the reason why I'm going to be talking quickly is because I want to give you the flavor of what things were like at I/O. They had very little time to make their presentation, so a lot of them, they all talked really fast, right, John? Yes. Okay, so this is going to be a real lightning talk. How many of you know what the Google Assistant is, for starters? How many of you don't know what the Google Assistant is? Okay, that's going to make my life a lot easier. First of all, who am I? My name's Alan Firstenberg. I'm a software developer. I'm a consultant. I'm also a Google developer expert for the Assistant and for a lot of other things. I don't work for Google, but I work with them a lot. Basically, my job as a GDE is to act as an interface between you, the developers, developer community, and Google's engineers. So when you run into problems, I'm kind of your advocate to them. When they've got questions for me about what you guys want to do, I'm their advocate for you. Here are some URLs you can find me at. I had a pretty decent live blog going at prisoner.com/IO with the sessions that I attended, my observations, my thoughts, a whole bunch of other stuff. Feel free to check it out. Also, I write about ubiquitous computing, including this presentation will be there. So, who wants to win an all-expense paid trip to Google I/O next year and $10,000? Raise your hand.
And 10,000.
Pay attention, I'll tell you how at the end of this.
You have to fly United?
They didn't say, but. So the big thing about the Assistant this year was a huge focus on design. The Google Assistant works around conversations, about this new way of computing and interacting with people where you're talking with them. You're talking to the computer. So there was a lot of sessions and just general chats with people about how can we make these conversations better? How can we do things so that the conversations we're having with our computers make more sense and the statements they're making back to us make a lot of sense. So think of everything else I'm going to talk about now in the next 10 or so slides in 2.5 minutes, focused around what's important with the design. The big news in the keynote, Google Assistant's coming to more platforms. We saw it on the Google Home. It's now coming to Android and to the iPhone. Big cheers at that. Plus, with the Assistant SDK, which somebody else is going to be talking about this evening, it's going to be everywhere. One of the pictures here that you see is of a drink mixer, which had the Assistant built into it. So you could talk to it, ask it about the drinks that it was going to make, what the ingredients are, how tasty they were, and what the time of day was. Again, the big deal was how do we mix this voice user interface with visual user interfaces that we're more familiar with. So they rolled out a bunch of new things specifically to work on the mobile devices. So we now see things like, I don't know, what are they? They're carousel cards and push buttons and a lot of other stuff which will work on phones. All of it wonderful. Keep them in mind when you're working on your voice interface though. You might have seen that they were talking about this thing they call transactions. It's basically a whole lot of infrastructure, some of it built on those visual user interfaces, that would now allow you to do payments with your voice. Do identity, account creation with your voice eventually. They wanted to be able to do notifications again, so that instead of you initiating every conversation, sometimes the computer can initiate a conversations with you, and as tied with the whole transaction theme, they want to be able to send you receipts, so you know what you purchased. They made a bunch of announcements about Google Home, but didn't actually say whether we're going to get all of those as part of the Assistant. So things like visual presentations on your television and on other Chromecast surfaces. More language support. They announced, what did they announce? 6 languages that are going to be supported, and only 3 of them we're going to see support for in the Actions API right now. Hopefully we'll get these notifications out on Home as well, and who knows if we're going to see the awesome Google Lens show up with an API for us. Nobody seemed to know.
Canada is a language?
They announced the Smart Home Initiative, so that now previously, if you were a smart home developer, if you made your own light bulb, you needed to go through a fairly convoluted set of things in order to get it to run with Google Home. Now, you essentially need to build a few extra lines on your backend server, and it just works. One of the great things if you're developing actions for Google, for the Assistant right now, was discovery. How in the world do people find your application? There were multiple sessions on this, and I am out of time, but I'm going to keep going anyway. So there were multiple sessions on this, but most of them focused around the fact that now there's a new app directory, which will show all of the applications that are available. When an application listing itself now has more information about it, including a very quick try it button, and a way to link directly to it so you can share it with other people. Part of this also is a new developer console. This new developer console has some very, very basic analytics built right into it. It's a much easier flow. So if you built actions in the past, they're now making it even easier to build new actions, see who's using it, see how well they're performing, and see how well they're failing. These pictures have absolutely nothing to do with it, but Timothy Jordan's really photogenic. If you're using API AI as your developer platform, they've added their own bundle of analytics and tied it with some follow-up intents. This picture here is one of the coolest things I found in my entire experience at I/O this year. And that's basically that you can see for every intent that a person gets to, what do they do next? And then what do they do after that? And what do they do after that? And at what point do people give up because your action is so difficult to use that they're just giving up? You can now see that and drill down and find out how are your people actually using your action. And I'm sure in this whole thing, I missed something. I know I did. This is another random picture. You can sort of see me in the middle of it. That's how big and how awesome I/O was this year. I/O, this is probably the best I/O I've ever attended. So, there's more opportunities for you to learn about actions coming up. For starters, you can always go to the documentation at developers.google.com/actions. If you are part of our Slack channel, and if you're not, you should be, we have a channel specifically on it for the Google Home Assistant. I'm in there. I'm there to answer your questions. You can also stop by on Stack Overflow and ask questions, and I seem to be answering all of them. Coming up on June 21st, we have an event with a speaker in a location that is yet to be announced. Stay tuned.
The speaker is known.
The speaker,
Location.
Nietzsche and I know who the speaker is. We don't know where it is. So stay tuned. And finally, I'm most excited. On June 20th, Brad Abrams, who is the vice president for something about the assistant, I forget exactly what, is going to be speaking at General Assembly. There's some other dude also pictured here who's going to also be speaking there. We're going to be talking about what you can do with the Google Home, with the Google Assistant, how you can do it, and kind of inspire some great ideas. Finally, are you guys interested in a real deep dive on any or all of these subjects associated with with actions?
Yes.
Anybody interested at all? There are a couple of you who might be. We will keep that in mind and try to do that for you as soon as we can. And the reason why we want to do it as soon as we can is because we've got a hard deadline at the end of the summer. Oh yeah. So what was that about that ticket to I/O and $10,000? Google announced the Actions Challenge. So if you can create the best Google action and get it live by August 31st, you could win $10,000, a ticket to I/O. They pay for the plane ticket, they pay for the hotel, you get to meet a whole bunch of the team, some other stuff. There are 20 other prizes, almost all of them involving cash that are in the thousands of dollars. Not quite 10,000 though. If you're a student, there's a special category for students. There are a whole range of categories, so I encourage you to check out g.co Actions Challenge. Remember, your deadline is August 31st. If you've got questions about developing for actions or any of that stuff, I want to help us win. I want to see one of the winners be in this audience and say, thank you to GDGNY. Are there any questions?
I'm
No
going to say,
questions.
and the winner who goes to I/O has to come back and do the recap next year. I'm just saying.
Sounds good.